This is your tutoring video on absolute value. We are going to be going over what absolute value is. Which has a greater absolute value? Absolute value of 3 or absolute value of -7? This is just one example of an absolute value problem. The question I'm sure you're asking yourself is, what is absolute value? Very basically put, absolute value is the distance from 0. On this number line I have plotted 2 points, -3 and 3. Both have an absolute value of 3. Positive 3 is 3 spaces away from 0, and -3 is 3 spaces away from 0. So how do you know when you should be finding absolute value? Absolute value will be indicated by 2 straight lines. These lines will be surrounding a number. The number can be positive or negative. The number will not be surrounded by parentheses. Parentheses indicate something completely different than absolute value. Do not mistake the parentheses for absolute value. Based on what you just learned about absolute value, you might be able to answer this question already. Which is greater, absolute value of 3 or absolute value of -7? If you are not able to answer that question of which is greater, ask yourself which is further from 0. By plotting 3 and -7 on our number line, we can tell that 3 is 3 spaces away from 0. I showed this by the green line. -7 is 7 spaces away from the 0. That's shown by the pink line. There are positive numbers and negative numbers on a number line. This is why there can be a positive number or a negative number inside your absolute value symbol. However, answering absolute value must be positive. Distance is always positive. You don't generally say that you are -5 feet away from the front door. You say you are 5 feet away from the front door, whether you are inside the room or outside the room. Determining absolute value is just like determining distance. Knowing that, we can answer this question. The absolute value of 3 and the absolute value of -7, what do they equal? I hope you answered positive 3 for the absolute value of 3 and positive 7 for the absolute value of -7. The answer to your absolute value problems will always be positive because it is distance. Please keep that in mind. We can now answer our original question of which is greater, absolute value of 3 or absolute value of -7. I hope you answered absolute value of -7. That is 7 spaces away from the 0, while the other is only 3. Therefore, the absolute value of -7 is greater.